everybody. Welcome to the Resistance broadcast. I'm John. Thank you for joining us. We have a very fun episode in store for you because the guests just keep on rolling. And we'll get to our guests in just a moment here. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see them on screen. But first, I have to say hi, as always, to Lacey Gillerin. How are you, Lacey?
Hello. I'm good. It's nice to get back to kind of a normal schedule for us. It's been a little crazy, but in the best way possible. But I will be happy if we don't have anything for a little bit, just so I can kind of come down from the. It felt like we were just like going.
Yeah.
And as John has said numerous times, he's buried his suitcases. So
Buried.
hopefully we don't have to have him get them back out anytime soon.
Not anytime soon. Yeah. Also for our wallets. But we are going to get a little taste of what it's like being at events because our guest is one of the best to hang out with doing that from the Virtual Cantina Network. We have Spencer Jawitz. Welcome to the base, Spencer. How are you?
I am great, guys. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a long time coming, and I'm very excited to be here.
We're very glad to have you. Thanks for taking the time yourself. I know you're always planning different cons and events.
Yeah, I know. I'm sitting here being like, we've been so busy. And like Spencer is like the busiest person I've ever met in my life.
So what's going on with you guys on the Virtual Cantina Network? I saw you guys are creeping close to 100,000 followers on the page. Why don't you let our audience know? I'm sure a lot of them know by now because we've talked about you, especially after hanging out with you in Japan, which was awesome. Let people know what's going on with Virtual Cantina Network and everything else you have going on that you can talk about in the near future. And then we'll get to it later in the show. We'll get into more of the meat and potatoes, but plug away and let people know where you're at and what's going on.
So we are the Virtual Cantina Network. We're the world's largest Star Wars Celebration fan page and community with 98,000 members as of today, creeping on 100,000. Pretty incredible considering the fact that we started just before Orlando 17. It's been pretty steady. We've gained about 17,000 since we left Japan.
Wow, which has been
ridiculous. But yeah, we're on the march to a whole bunch of stuff, including Rebel Scum Con, which we'll talk about a bit later on, along with our Boonta Eve special edition we're doing there. And I'm also going to allude to maybe some things that, we already started planning for 2027, since we all know that we're going to be in the City of Angels for a little event. So things are progressing quite a bit for that.
Excellent. Yeah, everybody make sure you go on Facebook and look up the Virtual Cantina Network, give them a follow. Great community over there, really centered around people getting together and Star Wars Celebration and remembering why we love this stuff. And you guys do such a great job at doing that. So be sure to go follow them. And of course, we're going to get into it a bit later in terms of what Spencer has going on. But Spencer, more importantly than anything, are you ready to talk and nerd out in some Star Wars right now?
I'm always ready to nerd out about Star Wars. Star Wars is what we're here for, man.
All right. So, Lacey, before we get into our first segment, we just want to let our audience know, especially if you're new to us, make sure you subscribe to the Resistance broadcast on your favorite podcast app. We're all over every one of them. And we also have our pop culture podcast, Nerdy and Nice, which is coming back on Monday. Yes, it is back. It is back to stay. Do not worry about that. And then trbpodcasts.com is our website. If you can grab some of our merch, we always have new stuff, and there are new things coming. And also, you could find the podcast there as well. And then Lacey will get into what's going on over on our Patreon in just a moment here, because, Lacey, it is time to get into our first segment of the day, Will of the Force.
I fear nothing, for all this, as the Force wills it.
All right, guys. Will of the Force is back, which you guys love this segment, so I'm happy for you. So yeah, Will of the Force is pretty simple. It's a will they, won't they scenario, situation, if you will. And we give our thoughts and answers and provide some type of background to why we think that. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't. Sometimes John and I disagree heavily.
Yeah.
We'll see where Spencer lands tonight.
Yeah.
So our first question is, will another actor with equal star power to Ryan Gosling be cast in Sean Levy's upcoming Starfighter? So guest of honor, Spencer, I'm going to start with you. Do you think that someone else will be cast at the same level as a Ryan Gosling?
I don't think it's the same level, but I think that we're going to get a cameo along the lines of a Simon Pegg or a Joseph Gordon-Levitt in the way of a voice cameo by Ryan Reynolds or Hugh Jackman, being that they're Sean Levy's best friends, and he loves to throw one of them or both of them into scenarios, if you will. I know the talk of the town is also Ryan Reynolds wanting to be involved in Star Wars in some capacity. So who knows where that's going to be? I don't think he needs it. I mean, I think Star Wars is best when they're building, they have a core and then they build new actors up. Just helps the franchise, because otherwise you're looking at the same actor. Oh my God, they're in Star Wars now. Oh my God, they're in Marvel. Right. I like to see someone who's an up and comer. I mean, we can talk all the way back to Ewan McGregor. I mean, yeah, he was an indie actor with Train Spotting, and all of a sudden he's Obi-Wan Kenobi. And then his career, took off mainstream right after that. So I think Star Wars is best when you have somebody who's an anchor and then build upon that.
Great thoughts. John, what do you think?
I think that is a great answer, Spencer. I'm sort of in line with you. I'm going to say no as well in that sense. But I do think, Sean Levy seems to be really dialed into pop culture, what is popular, what people like. I'm not saying he's necessarily a film populist or anything of that nature, but if you look at Deadpool and Wolverine compared to the other iterations, he definitely ramped things up. Now, I don't think we'll get star power in the equivalent of Ryan Gosling, but I think you have to match your protagonist with a pretty gnarly villain. So I think we'll get somebody that's on the rise, but not at his level. So I'm saying no, but we're going to get somebody that we know that is maybe like you're saying, Spencer, of that person, they're about to pop, and Star Wars is going to be the thing that pushes them over the edge.
Those are great opinions. I think they will not cast someone bigger than Ryan Gosling. I think he's carrying the movie, and they've made that pretty clear from the announcement to him coming out at Celebration, etc. I hope it's more in line with what Spencer was saying, where it's unknown people. I think Star Wars shines when it's someone that's not known, when it's someone that gets their shot, and their shot is Star Wars. And I would say that with the majority of big franchises and movies is like when you get an unknown person that's never been in anything else, then you have the ability to consider them as like, that's their character. It was like Jennifer Lawrence with Hunger Games, or Daisy Ridley, obviously with Rey, or John Boyega. It's just, that's who I see those people as now. Right. Despite what they do later. And that's saying a lot, because Daisy Ridley's about to do the greatest rom-com of all time with Alden Ehrenreich. I keep saying, like, the guy from Jurassic Park, Sam O'Neill's playing her dad. Like, it is about to be the most
Is he really?
Yes. Wow. She shared a video that says, like, Papa on it. I was like, oh my God, this is happening. No, it's going to be great. And I really hope that it is unknown people. I feel like with the stuff we've been hearing over the past few months, where people are like, oh, we're casting this person because they have this many followers on social media. And while it is wonderful in Spencer's case, because it's people finding their people and found family online, that's a different scenario. When someone gets cast in a role because they have so many followers, to me, that's just like, ugh, I don't know about that. So I would love to see unknowns, but I have a concern that Sean Levy does have a lot of big name friends and connections that might love Star Wars, and they're like, dude, I don't care what I am. I just want a line. I just want to be a stormtrooper. So you might see a J.J. Abrams scenario where people are sneaking in different situations. Because we know that Sean Levy is friends with Taylor Swift too, because of Ryan Reynolds. And it's just like, who's going to find their way into this movie?
I
know John was going to say that. John does not like Taylor Swift.
No, I mean, whatever, but don't sleep on the Stranger Things kids too, because he's worked with them now for a bunch of years. Now that they're done with that, you could see one of these kids do a nice pivot right into Star Wars and fit right in with that mold. So maybe one of the Stranger Things kids lands a gig in this.
You saw one of them at the premiere.
When they just started, I was at the Last Jedi premiere, and I walk in. It's my first premiere, so I'm wide-eyed. I don't really know what I'm doing, and I hold the door for this kid. I'm just like, oh, some kid's here, and he's like waiting because he's waiting for his mom, and he goes, "Mom, mom, mom," and then I look at him again. I'm like, "Oh, it's Dustin from Stranger Things,
Yeah.
Gaten Matarazzo." I'm like, and he was like, I don't know, probably like 13 at the time, who knows? But he was like this little kid, and his life was just taking off, and I'm some nobody who's like, I can't believe I'm here, and it was just this cool moment where I held the door for Dustin from Stranger Things. It was
He
very
might
cool.
work his way in there, he's just got to call.
That
Sean
would
and
be
like,
cool.
"Hey,
Yeah, he's good.
Well, there's a talk that Sadie Sink is going to be in the next Spider-Man movie, and once you're involved in the Mouse House, you get involved in all the properties. You're stuck. So if she's actually going to be
right.
Spider-Man, she could end up going across the street over to Star Wars in a Lucasfilm and slipping right in there, right?
Unless Feige's
She's
like
also in a Taylor
10
Swift
picture deal, can't not
yeah,
going
right.
across the aisle.
with the baseball cards that we've heard about, where they have like this person can only be in this many movies. Sadie
Yeah.
Sink is in a Taylor Swift movie though, so she's kind of hitting all the angles.
Oh wow. All
And
right.
she's on Broadway right now too. She's nominated for a Tony.
Incredible. All right, let's move on to the next question, which was, he has previously said no to this question, but will Andor showrunner Tony Gilroy get involved with making another Star Wars project in the future? Now, I'm gonna be honest, we get no's a lot that turn out to be lies and or then yeses. John, what's your take?
I'm gonna say no. To the disappointment of a lot of our listeners, I'm sure. Only because when Tony Gilroy speaks, I believe him emphatically. I think he speaks with conviction. I don't think he speaks with frills or trying to, churn up some rumors or hope or anything like that. And also, he's approaching 70. He clearly has other things he wants to do as a filmmaker, and he's made that clear. So I think he wants to go out on a high note. And what a bigger high note than Andor Season 2, which seemed to really rally Star Wars fans together. So I'm going to say no. I think Tony Gilroy is genuinely bowing out from Star Wars.
What do you think, Spencer?
I'm going to say maybe, because we thought that way of the Kasdans. So money talks, a good story talks. If they have an opportunity to do something that is unusual and, able to take the formula of not just making a good Star Wars story, but making a good story with Star Wars being the backdrop out of it. I mean, he might get an opportunity that might be like too good to be true. But who knows? I mean, if he doesn't come back, then, I would say that, the Andor Season 1, Andor Season 2, and then Rogue One is the best prequel that we could ever get. So I would say that, if he decides that's going to be it, it's it. And we should be happy with that.
Yeah.
Those are
Absolutely.
all good points. This is a tricky one. I'm going to surprisingly agree with John. Only because Tony's, I think, kind of done with Star Wars right now. He seems tired from the interviews I've listened to. Not that he hasn't loved it, but like he just seems like this is like 10 years of my life, and then plus Rogue One. And we were talking on a Patreon exclusive video before this about Andor and Rogue One, or was it on this episode? It's kind of blurring right now, where Tony's
Probably
allowed to say
both.
fascism.
That
No,
was on a bonus episode. Yeah.
so I feel like he's been dropping these comments that he's like, I am now out of the tunnel and I can see the light. And,
the shackles
but
are off.
I could see Tony, and this is not part of the question, but it kind of leans toward what Spencer was saying, is like, I could see Tony being a consultant because he does need to make money.
Sure.
He does need to pay bills. So I could see him working as a consultant, because they've been bringing on more and more, I think, like special consultants or like special story people. And it's important to remember that Tony was brought in to gut Rogue One to begin with. He wasn't the one that was like, yeah, Rogue One's my story. He came in to fix it. So yeah, I could see him being the story fixer. That would be really cool. All right. Which movie, speaking of movies, will arrive in theaters first? Oh, this is gonna be tricky. James Mangold's Dawn of the Jedi, or Dave Filoni's Mandoverse film movie, etc. Film. Yeah.
Film and a movie.
I know my brain like malfunctioned with Mandoverse movie.
I should add a motion picture.
Spencer, I'm going to throw this one back at you. Which one do you think's coming first and why?
I think it's going to be Filoni's movie because it was the only one of the three that was even acknowledged in Japan. Honestly, other than, what we know is coming out. I think after that, December 10th presser that we all saw where they basically, hey, here's everything that's on the slate. And it's like maybe one thing. They're building to whether it be, the Star Wars Avengers being an heir to the Empire, which I hope they choose a different title for that. That's going to come. I mean, it's really going to depend upon how Mando Grogu works. If they decide that they're going to go with season 4, which Favreau says he's written, if the movie does work, that he's willing to do it. But I mean, we haven't heard anything. We've literally, the Daisy movie has fizzled down since they said they found a new writer.
I know.
We've not heard anything. We've not heard anything from Mangold since Celebration in London about Dawn of the Jedi. And we got the same hype when he was supposed to do the Boba Fett, Logan-esque type of movie as well. So
right.
Who knows what's real anymore? We know we have Starfighter. We know we have Mando Grogu. We know that Ahsoka season 2 is going to be the last live action Disney Plus show for a while because they want to go back to filming. So we'll see. I'm hopeful. We all say that Star Wars is the best when it's in the theater. So we'll take anything we get at this point.
That's a good point. John, what do you think?
I'm going to go. I mean, I agree with everything you just said, Spencer, and everything you said is accurate. Because it has been
the sigh in your voice that you're like,
well, because I'm going to disagree.
Not that he's right, but that you're like, like the drama of all the things he just said.
Well, yeah, because like up until a side interview at Celebration, Kathleen Kennedy also hasn't mentioned Charmin Obaid-Chinoy since like last June. That movie's already had different writers since the last time she was talked about on a big level.
Remember Investment Day 2020?
Yeah, that's what Spencer was just saying. It's like
it was my birthday. I remember. I'm like,
oh no,
this
best
is all
birthday, and then retroactively weirdest birthday.
Yeah, I was at Lando show. Come on,
Yeah, I know exactly. But I think it's gonna be Mangold's movie because I think there's still other stories they're telling in the Mandoverse to lead up to Filoni's movie. Which could include another season of The Mandalorian, Ahsoka season 2. We'll see how that ends, whether that ends the show, whether they, what they do with those characters after that. A lot of the Rebels characters are involved. There's a lot of different avenues they can take. The Mangold thing, if it doesn't come out by 2028, then you just got to start being like, all right, it's been 5 years since they came out and said they were making this movie. If it's not coming out this year, when is it happening? And it sort of starts feeling like the Rian Johnson thing, which we'll get into in the news section in a bit. So I don't want to get into that now. So I think I'm only saying Mangold's movie because it has to be, because if Filoni's movie comes out before his and they're not going to do 2 movies a year, then you're looking at 29, 30. All of a sudden it's like 7 years after they announce it. Just, I don't know. It sounds like one of those things that just starts fading into the whiteboard
how
distance.
How old am I going to be at that time?
Yeah, let's not get into that. But I'm going with Mangold for that reason, because if it doesn't come out by a reasonable amount of time, then I don't know that it ever will.
Again, stuck in between 2 good answers. I think it will be Dave Filoni's Mandoverse movie. I think that Disney is fully in on Mando. I think they're fully in on Dave Filoni, and they're not in on James Mangold after Indiana Jones. I think that
didn't help.
We talked about this when Indiana Jones came out. We were like, oh, this movie is the John phrase of, this has got to do good. This has got to be good. This has got to do really well for Disney. And it did not. And that's not a reflection on anything about the movie. I'm just saying money-wise, it didn't do well. And reception, I guess people didn't really go for it the same way that they would have hoped they would. I just feel like there was a lot of hype going into that movie that made it, I think, expectations a little too high, which is understandable because it's Indiana Jones and it's Harrison Ford. That being said, I'm going to say something real bold right now, and years from now, someone's going to hold me to it. I don't think the James Mangold movie's happening.
Yeah.
I think that there was a reset after London that they don't want to discuss. And the reset consists of new writers, new ideas, and things not happening anymore. Because the Mando movie, I believe, was announced after London. Wasn't it? It was announced right before the strikes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Bob Iger came back in and was like, what is going on in here? Like, why are we not banking on Mando right now? Why are we not putting that little green guy in front of everything, on everything, everywhere? Why aren't we banking on this right now? Because he's done the same thing with every other franchise. Like Frozen, they're making like 17 Frozen. So I don't think James's movie is happening. And if it is, it's on like the back burner. It's on like plan C for Disney. And they've pushed Dave's movie forward because he's doing Ahsoka right now. And the Mando movie's coming out. So those lead perfectly into a Mando Avengers team up cinematic crossover movie. But I don't know if they're going to do another season of Mando after that. I think they'll probably lean more into movies if they're going to do more because there's more money there. So yeah, that's my bold take. We'll see what happens, but I don't think that's movie. It's disappointing to say because I said this last week, which was I will take any Star Wars you give me. I'll watch it, I'll enjoy it, I'll talk about it. But it's just I've gotten a little, I don't want to say bitter because that's not the right word. I guess
Jaded.
anxious. I don't know if jaded's the right word too. It's just like I am nervous that things aren't going to happen. And I get so nervous that I like psych myself out of it, being excited for it.
That's fair.
Because it's like hard sometimes to defend, like, yes, of course they're doing this. And it's like, okay, they're definitely not doing this movie, like the Rian Johnson one, and which we'll get into, like John said, but I'm sitting here like they're gonna come back. It's like that meme with the girl at the Taylor Swift concert. I bring her up again, but it's a meme where she's like, she's gonna come back out, right?
How many Taylor Swift mentions are we gonna get in one podcast?
I got 3. I've tapped out. Those are my 3 for the day.
You need a counter on the bottom.
I know.
I know.
But it's like Sean Levy is like that meme is what I would have thought out anyway. It's just like, are they coming back? And it's like, no. Anyway, last question.
Well, you can probably, I mean, I don't want to get too into it, but you could probably confidently say Taylor Swift will not appear in Sean Levy's Star Wars movie in lieu of what's happening in the legalities of the.
You could say that then Ryan Reynolds is not going to show up if it's in the legalities. I don't think people care about that. Ryan Reynolds.
No, I think Sean Levy is really good friends with Ryan Reynolds, so he's on that side of the aisle. Is what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. Yeah, that's a possibility. We'll see. Sean Levy's just like friends with everyone, and I just watched something.
He just seems like such a nice guy. Yeah.
Oh, it was The Studio. I just finished The Studio, and someone made a joke that they were like, "If you don't do this, I'm firing you and getting Sean Levy to do your effing movie." And the guy's like, "Okay, I'll do it. Okay." And it's like a joke because it's like everyone hires Sean Levy. Anyway, last question of this segment. You still with us, Spencer?
I'm here.
You're good. Okay, great. I know we go on tangents. It's hard to stick around.
Trust me, we never keep on format.
Will George Lucas appear in person at Star Wars Celebration Los Angeles for the 50th anniversary? I can't remember who started, but I'm start with Spencer anyway. Spencer, is the man showing up?
I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say that the last time we saw him was the 40th in 2017 in Orlando, which was the last good panel at Star Wars Celebration. And every other panel has not. Well, come on, it ruined panels for like the last.
It was
10
amazing.
Years.
It really did, and I wasn't there. I didn't come in until the next day because I had a work thing, and I was watching an iPad, and I was straight up crying in a conference room. So I would agree with that statement.
That was my first in-con experience for Star Wars. Was that panel?
So
it's all gone downhill from there.
So you have nowhere else to go from there.
No, because I thought the Phantom Menace panel was going to be fantastic in Chicago, and they phoned it in. George literally phoned it in from Snapchat.
No, right.
Like
So no wonder you're planning stuff. You're like, I can't watch something now. I just got to plan it so people show up.
I mean, let's look at that. They had the surprise. They had the surprise of Harrison. They had the surprise of George. They had that amazing surprise of John Williams. And they had Billy Lord come and do that tribute to her mother. I mean, that was your 40th anniversary panel. You know,
and it was right after
Carrie. For the 50th. You know, George has to be there. You know, there has to be an appearance by Mark and Harrison to at least acknowledge that. You know, who else is, still around from that? Anthony could show up. But George has to at least come in. Yeah. They're doing California for a reason. They're doing Los Angeles for a reason because people can drive in.
Right.
I think the people that are going to have available to them are going to be great. And to have George and Harrison and Mark there, it's just going to, be the icing on the cake because this might be one of the last time we're going to see them all together in a public setting. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
I agree.
I'll just quickly agree with you and say, I think, yes. I think I agree 100% that the location of this one, all of those factors played a part in it. And I agree that it probably would be the last time we'll see George Lucas at a celebration for sure. And maybe even a Star Wars related event. I mean, Lucas will be going on 83 at the time. Harrison Ford will be going on 85. We do need to cherish these moments with these actors because, Spencer, you bring up 2017 and you look around those rooms and Peter Mayhew was there. Kenny Baker may still have even been around. Carrie Fisher was there the year prior. Like, they were all here for this new resurgence for Force Awakens, lead up to The Last Jedi. And then you look around, it's like all of a sudden those pictures are getting black and whited out with all these legends leaving us. And if we have another opportunity, especially with a 50th anniversary, because look, I don't mind 40th anniversaries and they do, it's been 20 years since this, but 50 is just one of those mega milestone anniversaries. This is the big one. You gotta all hands on deck. However you have to get George there, get him there, and give us one last chance to give him a standing ovation that he deserves. Because I don't think he gets mentioned enough on a lot of these panels these days. And none of this would exist without him, obviously. So him getting his flowers one last time, I think would be an amazing thing to see in person with a giant crowd there to say thank you to George Lucas, who may have still had some bitter feelings towards fans with the prequels and things like that. It'll be nice for him to come back again and get his praise. Because even when he came back for the 40th anniversary, people were still really, for the most part, loving Disney Star Wars. You got Force Awakens, you got Rogue One, everyone's feeling good. Now it's a little bit more of like, oh man, I wish George was still around. So it's time for him to come back and really get that praise that he deserves. So I'm saying he's got to be there.
If I end up in the same room as George Lucas, I might cry because that's never happened in my life. That being said, fingers crossed that I get tickets to this event because I feel like it's going to be the hardest one to get tickets to. Second of all, I 100% think he's going to be there. I really hope Mark's going to be there because it's the 50th. And then also, he hasn't been in the last few and it's really disappointing. And I will never forgive myself for 2015. I had the opportunity to go get a picture with Carrie if I wanted one. And I was like, I'll get her next time. I'm like, I'm in the middle of something.
Yeah.
And I never did it. And I just 100% regret it. And it's one of the biggest regrets I have in my life. So I hope Mark goes and does photos because I'm getting one. I'm getting a photo with my childhood hero, Mark Hamill. But I know the only reason I'm bringing up him is because I know George would never ever do photos, so I don't think that's gonna happen. But I don't know if I've told you this story, John. I'm sure I have. I've told every story 6 times. But when I used to work for Reed Pop, one of the hilarious stories they would say is there was a celebration that George was at that they have the wheelchair lane that people go in to get in, and this guy was in a full leg cast and he went in to watch George, and at the end of the panel the wheelchair was sitting there and the full leg cast.
Oh yeah,
they were
snuck in, right?
They were well, he lied. He said oh yeah, I have wheelchair, and he didn't. He was wearing a full fake leg cast.
That's wild.
And then left it in the room and walked out.
That was the only panel he wanted to go to, I guess.
But at the same time, I kind of understand because it's George Lucas. But that's it for Will of the Force. And now we're going to get into some more kind of top of mind news stories with Resistance Report.
It's the resistance.
Resistance Report this week. We have 3 stories, and we'll give our takes on those quickly, and then we'll get into some fun stuff with Spencer about what's going on with the Virtual Cantina Network, Rebel Scum Con, and all that stuff in our discussion segment. But let's get into the news, because it's been a while, Lacey. We haven't really had a chance to talk about Star Wars news. There hasn't been a ton necessarily, but some stuff has come out. The first being the big one, which is the shifting of movie release dates. Good news for Star Wars fans that they're not going to doom The Mandalorian and Grogu the way they doomed Solo.
I was going to say they're not going
right
to
next
solo
to an
it.
Avengers movie. Jon Favreau started the MCU. Give him his room for his movie. So now the Avengers moves to December. But the problem with that is the other Avengers movie moves to December 2027. Good for Starfighter. Not good for whatever Star Wars movie was supposed to be at the end of 2027. It looks like there will be no Star Wars movie now at that December 2027 date that a lot of people were saying that's got to be the Rey movie one. Then,
It was
because
supposed to be
there's
the
no
Rey
other slots
movie.
left. Yeah, they kept moving that
Yeah.
one. So right now, nothing there. Spencer, your thoughts on these shifts in the movie schedules? Disney not wanting to cut off its nose despite its face, but knowing that no 2 Star Wars movies for 2027, but your overall thoughts on their shift around with this stuff.
Well, I caught what you were saying with the didn't want to doom them, considering the next Avengers movie is called Doomsday. But I was like, well played, sir.
Thank you, buddy.
Little tip of the hat. Honestly, I mean, it's no secret that the 3 of us are diehard Solo fans, and if they kept the original date of Solo in December as opposed to May, it would have been done a lot better. People, whether one way or the other, was not, feeling Star Wars or anything at that time, and it just doomed Solo from the beginning.
Yeah.
I don't think Star Wars should have 2 movies in a year. I think other properties should come in and do that, and especially if they're also banking that their big money for the company is actually going to come from the Avengers movie, then spread it around a little bit. Hold off. Have 26. 27. We have another Avengers movie, and then maybe come back in 28. We don't need a Star Wars movie every year. As much as we would love it, I think that we're never going to have to deal with the dark ages like we have for that 16 years. So we don't need to have a full feature film that quickly. Marvel has had this formula that has worked, for close to, 15 years at this point. And Star Wars has not caught that bug. So pushing the date off is not a horrible thing as long as we know that something is going to come eventually. They're testing the waters with that because they have, like Lacey said, the little green guy who's their cash cow. So they're going to milk that as much as they possibly can as well.
Yeah, good call. Good call on that. Lacey, I think you and I have already sort of celebrated this for The Mandalorian and Grogu, but now we know these additional shifts happening due to the Avengers taking over December for the time being. You and I loved the December Star Wars thing they were doing for a while, but what are your thoughts on the shifts here?
I mean, there's been a weird shift away from blockbusters in the summer. I don't know why. It seems like they're just not doing as well as I think fall, winter, holiday season movies. With the exception of like Top Gun Maverick, which is like an outlier, and maybe Barbie. And those are like the only 2 that in past years have done like really well. Everything else is like it's doing fine, or it hasn't, performed the way they wanted it to. The funny thing that you did say is that, it was doomed. Did you know that it's moving the Avengers movie up against Dune?
Oh, that's
it comes out the same way. So at first I thought you said it was doomed. I was like, yeah, I mean it is. And then you were like, oh no, it's doomed. And I was like,
So do they do the Barbenheimer thing and call it Doomsday and try to both help each other out?
I mean, maybe. That was the big thing people were saying. They were like, so now I'm up against, Dune's up against Doomsday or whatever. But
Spencer, are you a Dune guy? Are you into Dune?
I'm an original 1984 Dune guy. I'm
Nice.
an OG.
Kyle MacLachlan.
I'm a huge Kyle MacLachlan fan because I'm I'm a Twin Peaker. Like I love.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
So yeah, so A. Kyle McLachlan is good in my book. So
Right on. All right.
you know, I like what they're doing, and I get it, but it almost kind of reminds me of Stargate at this point. It's just kind of like milking.
That makes
the storyline.
sense. It
I'm
seems
not as
very
into it,
slow.
I'll admit,
I've
but-
never watched it, but I mean, it's beautiful seeing screenshots of it and clips of it. It's just like a stunning film. But yeah, I just can't get into it. It's just a little too into
Sandy.
like deep. No, you idiot. No, although I do hate sand. That's not an Anakin joke. Like I really don't like the beach and I don't like sand. No, it's just like very, and the reason I'm like hesitating is because I'm a huge Lord of the Rings girl. So for me to be like, it's just really lore heavy, and it's like that is like the ultimate
They're so
like,
long.
world building lore. Yeah,
It's
it just
3 movies about trees walking. I mean,
I know.
I love that line. Oh yeah.
I know. And then they just walked. But they're amazing. Anyway, how am I feeling about it? I'm feeling good. I'm glad that they're not cannibalizing themselves again. Between Avengers and then it was Deadpool and then Solo. Like there are many issues that we had with the situation, if you will, with Solo. We're the biggest Solo fans here. Make Solo 2 happen. We want more Solo. We want more Alden. We want more Jonas. Lando series is like that shining gem of like, could this
A little
transform into something else? Yeah, a little bit of
Crimson
hope. Which we all know.
Dawn. We want Crimson Dawn.
Yes,
That would be amazing.
More Kira, which I got, a couple friends reaching out being like, oh yeah, that new Outlaws game is basically Solo 2. And I'm like, stop, just stop now.
That hurts. Stop.
Just stop.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's other marketing things that like the whole Denny's thing that they did. And it's just like, there's a lot of mess.
Oh,
so I'm
yeah.
hoping that Disney, since they have a good kind of lead way and time to breathe, as you said, Spencer, time to think about things, they're going to hit this really hard with some really creative, interesting marketing, which is always a big thing for me. I love like good marketing. I think honestly, the last 2 films that stuck out to me with really solid marketing were the Final Destination Bloodlines, where they put like trucks with the logs on them driving around the
that was funny.
highways.
Yeah.
Or they had the billboard with the 2 guys that were hanging on it dead and their blood was
Right.
coming down the billboard. Like brilliant. And then the other one was the Twisters film. They did really cool stuff where they had like movie poster things like stuck in the ground, like they'd been thrown there from a twister, or like, yeah, it was just really cool. Wind machines that you could go in. I just think that sometimes people overlook marketing because they're like, oh, we'll just like have the star go into a room with a bunch of puppies and it will sell the movie. And I'm like, no, it won't. Because until people get their butts in the seats and talk about your film and tell their friend to go see it, humans are very community oriented, which we know, Spencer, you're doing it up over there with the Virtual Cantina. Like people want to know other people that like the same thing they do, and they'll
Right.
tell someone if they like it. So if you don't have good marketing and you don't get
Buzz.
outside
Yeah.
of die hard butts in the seats,
Right.
you're not going to get anybody else. And a lot of things are slow burn. Like Severance is one of those things that like I've gotten into recently that I'm late to the party, but it's because everybody's been talking about it and now I'm obsessed. So yeah, I'm happy about this, John. I'm happy that it seems like they're thinking through their calendars more instead of like go, 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 go. And it also, I think, is an indicator of people are making more choices with their wallets on what to spend on movies.
Absolutely. Yes. I agree with that 110%. I think people decide, we're going to go see a movie and we're not going to go again for a while. Which one are we going to? Is it Avengers or is it Mandalorian? And that's an issue. So
the last one I saw was Wolverine, Deadpool and Wolverine with you. The one before that, Top Gun Maverick. I haven't seen a movie besides those 2.
It's a thing, especially you
Yeah.
have young kids. There's a lot of people with young kids and it's hard to get to the movies. And if it's not a movie that you could bring your kids to, then you got to get a sitter. It's a whole thing. And then now with the early release to streaming, some people are just like, I'll wait and watch it on my 80-inch TV at home. And
I wait.
It's definitely an issue. But Star Wars,
Yeah.
go ahead, Steph.
Isn't it funny at that time that, there might have been a time that, all of us might have gone like to a movie a week. Or you go to a theater and you say, I saw every movie that was in that theater. I'm good for a while. And now, we're adulting and we're like, I don't have time for this. Like,
Yeah. I'm so tired. I'm going to go to sleep now.
It's like, I mean, yes, I went to go see Wicked in the theater, but it went on Peacock like a month later, and I was like, okay,
exactly.
cool.
I watched it on an airplane TV, how it was intended to be viewed.
Yeah. No, this is all good news to me. I give Favreau his lane. Like I said, he launched the MCU, so if anyone deserves the space for his other venture, it's Favreau, and I pray at the altar of King Favreau, so I think he deserves it.
You do love him.
And then
you've loved him from the moment they announced that.
Yeah. No, I mean, we're still getting a Star Wars movie in 26 and 27, and that doesn't mean we're not getting one in 28. So, to Spencer, your point, we don't need 2 in 1 year. Star Wars movies are better as events, and I think 1 a year is maybe even pushing it. But this, I have no problem with this one. But next story, will these movies ever be seen? Forget shifting dates. Let's see if they happen. And this is Rian Johnson being interviewed talking about his successful series Poker Face with Natasha Lyonne. And of course, Star Wars always comes up if you've ever been involved in Star Wars and you do an interview, no matter how many years later. And that is no exception here. He was asked about that trilogy that was announced before The Last Jedi came out once again. And now he's sort of at the point where he can clearly no longer talk about that he's making them and he's working on them. It's been 8 years. So now it is, quote, if I make another Star Wars, I'll be the happiest person, end quote. And he also painted less of a grim picture of his experience with fandom. I have my own thoughts about pre and post TLJ. But Lacey, I'll start this one off with you. What were your thoughts on Rian Johnson's comments about, he's busy, but he would love to still come back and do Star Wars?
First of all, the photo they used for this article, I thought it was a mugshot at first, the way it scrolled down, like the coloring on it. It's very, very up close.
Well, Ryan, what have you been up to? He's like, I've been in jail.
That's what I was like scrolling and I'm like, oh my God, what? And then I was like, oh, it's just like very cropped. Anyway, he doesn't look happy in this photo. And I'm like, just pick something else. But that's besides the point, because he is a very happy guy. And it makes me sad when I see pictures where I'm like, he doesn't look genuinely happy in this photo. Anyway, that being said, I think, it's a tough situation, being that, John, you and I know this from other sources, that he was set to do 9. They were set to give him the contract to do 9. And basically it got swept out from under him and given to J.J. Abrams. And this was their make good, was like, we'll just give you another trilogy. You could do whatever you want. And so then they announced that trilogy and nothing has come of it. Now, to be said, Rian Johnson has gone on to do crazy, amazingly successful things like Knives Out. And they put out a teaser about it today, and it's all people talk about. And I'm really genuinely happy for him. I think he's done amazing things outside of Star Wars to prove that, like, he's not just someone that made a Star Wars that people love and or hate. He does other things. He cares about film. But I'm not surprised. I mean, every time he talks about this, he's like, I guess sometime. It was looking a little grim there for, I don't know, I guess like the first 3 to 4 years of him talking about this, where it was every time he got asked about it, he was like, yeah, there was an email. Yeah, I talked to them like 4 months ago. Yeah, there was a phone call in 2017. Like it went down, a downward spiral of what the actual communication structure was. I think he's being genuine in that he's just really busy and he has other things to do. And he said that he has another trilogy in the works that is not Star Wars. So I don't blame him. Do what you want to do. You're getting the calls. Yeah. You're getting people letting you do whatever you want. Netflix is throwing money at you. Like, do other things if that's what makes you happy. I think if he really wanted to be doing Star Wars, he'd be doing it right now.
Interesting. All right. Spencer, first of all, I don't want to, put you in a pressure cooker here, but do you like The Last Jedi? Do you like Rian Johnson? And what are your thoughts on his comments? And would you like to see him come back and tackle another Star Wars movie?
So one, I I am probably one of the biggest Last Jedi fans that you're going to actually find out there. I absolutely adore that
Wow,
movie.
really?
I think that movie is
Good
the
for you.
best movie out of the entire sequels, quite honestly, for a number of reasons. I think that Rian Johnson was brave, and he also went against what people were expecting. Because
Sure.
if you look at The Force Awakens as a whole, it came out at a time where people were still prequel haters, and they were bringing Star Wars back. So what did they have to do? They had to bring Star Wars back to an even keel and reintroduce themes that people already knew.
A New Hope 2.0, yes.
Diet New Hope, I call it.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. It's fair. It's a fair
So
call.
what's going to happen in the second movie? People going to want Diet Empire. They want to know Rey's lineage in movie 2 to match up exactly to where Empire was. And Rian Johnson said, she's nobody. And I was like, I can get behind that. Like, it's something new. It's different. There's thematic there. But the thing is that it was a bold take on everything. I mean, I loved Mark's portrayal of grumpy old Luke. Like, I thought that was absolutely fantastic. I laughed in the theater when he threw the saber. Like, I enjoy that. Now, would I love another Rian Johnson movie? Absolutely. I mean, I remember that I didn't get into the panel or do the overnight in 2017, but he was there up and down the lines at 4:00 in the morning, signing autographs and giving out pizza, like right before the panel. Yeah. And I was kicking myself for that, but I absolutely love that. Do I think that he's going to come back to do another Star Wars? I would love so. But the Knives Out movies are absolutely incredible. I mean,
they are.
Poker Face is great, but as someone who's a cinephile and loved the old Peter Sellers, Inspector Clouseau, Pink Panther movies growing up, I mean, Benoit Blanc is a similar type of character to like a Inspector Clouseau. So it kind of reminds me that he's getting into it. Plus, also, he shows his love of classic rock music with like a Glass Onion, and also with some Beatles songs. He's doing a U2 song as a title for his next Knives Out movie with Daniel Craig. So he's always going to love Star Wars. He's always going to be a Star Wars fan, because even if whatever experience you have in Star Wars, you come from a love of Star Wars. So he's going to keep on saying, if I can go back, great. But like you said, Lacey, he doesn't need to. And like
he's fine.
In my mind, he's got nothing to prove to Star Wars fans. He owes us nothing at this particular time. And the thing is that, he's going to be controversial if he steps back. But he's going to be controversial whether he doesn't step back. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love Ryan to come back, but I'm okay with him not.
Yeah, I think in retrospect, and I love The Last Jedi. I have the Paul Shipper poster on my wall. Like, it was my first premiere. I have a very special connection to that movie. It's not my favorite, but I love all Star Wars movies in varying levels. I think Rian Johnson maybe would have been better served if he started a fresh, based on how we see all of his other movies, if he started with a blank canvas and didn't have to do the picking the baton up, because he's such a good creative, ingenuity-based storyteller, that if he's able to start on page 1 with no ink to paper, he's limitless. So with that in mind, thinking of that vast landscape ahead, the future, the horizon, the stuff Sean Levy's working on, like we're post episode 9, it has nothing to do with, it's not a sequel. Give Rian Johnson that pen and paper. That intrigues me a whole lot. The only thing is, I don't think it's going to happen because Disney is so worried about fandoms and
optics,
people.
Yeah.
And I still think the post TLJ world is still a vastly different fandom than pre TLJ, and I don't know that it's ever made it all the way back. But now we find ourselves where it seems like things are going pretty well. Skeleton Crew, mostly liked. Andor season 2 seems mostly beloved. Like, we're heading in good direction. We got Mando coming up. Most people seem to really like Mando. I get nervous about what would happen if Rian Johnson came back. Would all the creatures come back out of the woodwork and just infect again? And what does that mean? What does that say? And then cherry on the sundae, Kathleen Kennedy is leaving within the next year, she was the biggest proponent for Rian Johnson because he was so inclusive with Lucasfilm, involving all different departments in the production of that movie. She gave him the 3-movie deal after or before it even came out. If she's leaving, I think that takes leverage away from his return, because Disney will say, is the juice worth the squeeze? We're not sure. And then the sunshine part of it is, like you guys said, he's doing great. And he could still say he made a really good Star Wars movie. So in the end, if he doesn't come back, it's all going to be okay. If he does come back, I'd love to see what he does. Makes me nervous about what it does to fandom.
I think he's doing whatever he wants, which makes me happy. It's like, do you, man?
Yeah, I don't know that he has like an open key to say like, all right, Star Wars, I'm ready to come back. But
you don't think so? Cool you don't think if he went to Disney was like, look, I'm ready?
I don't know. Not if Kathleen Kennedy's leaving. It depends on who's coming in.
Yeah, I think they're really focused on Jon Favreau right now and Dave Filoni. So I think if Jon Favreau and Dave were like, yeah, bring Rian in, then that's a...
Ryan did help Filoni by letting him visit the set of the Last Jedi.
Dave's first time.
I agree. I'm saying at this current point, I think that if both of them were like, yeah, bring Rian in, which I don't think he needs. I think Rian can do whatever he wants.
He doesn't need it. No, yeah.
But I think having a little bit of leverage helps oftentimes in these scenarios, or like in Hollywood, so to speak, is like, oh, who do you know? But I think he's doing what he wants. Oh no, Sean Levy doesn't need it. No.
I mean, he doesn't. Yeah. I mean, he's a hot director at this point, that they grabbed him, and he's involved with this with Ryan Gosling, and it's appealing to that TMZ crowd. It's
It's funny, the Sean Levy thing, after we saw Deadpool and Wolverine and just like how crazy that movie went, how much money it made, we were immediately being like, okay, Sean's doing Star Wars next. 100% he's doing Star Wars next. And then the rumors were going around that they were offering Avengers to him, and he was like, nah, I'm good, I'm doing Star Wars. And we kind of assumed a little bit that he was going to take over the Rey stuff, that maybe he'd take that over and kick off that trilogy. But as soon as that was said, like, hey, that's not the case, he's definitely doing his own thing, I was more excited, because I feel like when Lucasfilm was sold to Disney originally, I wasn't even excited for them to continue the stories of Luke and et cetera, et cetera. I was excited to see, okay, what's next? What new things are they going to do that I've never even considered or thought of, or what new characters am I going to meet? And it seems like a lot of stuff, understandably so, is tied to Luke Skywalker and the Skywalker saga and that kind of thing. Original trilogy, which is understandable. They're trying to bring in those fans, but I am so hyped about the Starfighter film and like it being its own thing. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, speaking of Sean Levy, next story is kind of related.
Yeah, and anytime you get a director who was born in the late 60s or early 70s, like, it is a dream for all of them to make Star Wars, because that's probably what made most of them become filmmakers. So one more quick story. Ryan Reynolds in a podcast interview revealed that he pitched an R-rated Star Wars. It says movie, but in his quotes, it seems like he's leaning more towards streaming. And he also revealed that I wouldn't necessarily want to be involved. I don't think that's a fit, but I'd be there to produce it and yada, yada, yada. So Spencer, back to you on this one. R-rated Star Wars, and or probably the closest we've gotten so far. Well, definitely the closest we've gotten so far, especially with the themes in season 2. Are you down with an R-rated Star Wars, and what do you think about Ryan Reynolds pitching that idea?
I am okay with an R-rated Star Wars, because I think there's room for everything under the sun when it comes to Star Wars. I think that before we got Andor, we were ready, the OT generation was ready for a dirty, gritty type of Dunkirk Star Wars, and we got that with season 1, season 2. With that being said, Ryan Reynolds has a very sophomoric type of sense of humor, and that makes me very, very nervous, especially when we heard the rumors about when Solo first started. It was almost like going to be like an Ace Ventura-esque type of humor.
A lot of improv, yeah.
Right. And Ryan Reynolds is extreme improv. like I said, sophomoric sense of humor that I don't know if that necessarily lends itself to Star Wars. It kind of almost like says to me the same kind of thing as like, I love Kevin Smith, but would I like a Kevin Smith Star Wars movie? Absolutely not. Like,
Yeah, I
it's
hear
just
you.
not the right fit for it. I
Yeah.
don't think that Ryan Reynolds, like I said, I think that if Ryan Reynolds is going to do Star Wars, he's going to be under a mask, or he's going to be a voiceover in the Sean Levy movie, and that'll be sufficient. I can't see him doing anything more, unfortunately, than what he did with Deadpool, what he did, his character in Green Lantern, or even going back to the cameo in Harold and Kumar. That's Ryan Reynolds. He can't get out of that. Yeah,
that's a good point. That's a good point. Lacey, what are your thoughts? I know you and I haven't been the biggest proponent for R-rated Star Wars. We sort of felt there was a line. I don't know if you've shifted on that after seeing Andor or not, but even with Ryan Reynolds, in an odd way, maybe because of the pulse of what's happening from a PR standpoint right now, said, I don't even have to be in it, but I want to make this, and it's an R-rated Star Wars, and this is what I pitched. What are your thoughts on this story?
I've been kind of battling about this because I'm like, I am someone that was very much against Andor in the sense of like violent, gritty Star Wars stuff. I grew up with Star Wars, being 6 or 7 when I first saw it, and I wouldn't say the original trilogy is super violent or anything very gritty. But then I loved Rogue One, and I loved the end of Rogue One where Darth Vader just goes bananas. Like, I remember just yelling in the theater when that happened, being like, this is the most epic thing they could have done. Now I'm an adult, so it's a little different, but I think I've come around on rated R in the sense of tackling mature themes and specifically violence, or like, fascism. We keep bringing that up, but like anything very serious war related makes sense in the bigger scheme of Star Wars. And I'm one of those people that has always been like, I want less war in Star Wars, more lightsabers and fun. Like Skeleton Crew is made for me. That show was made for me. With the creatures and the children having this great kind of coming of age story, and
That was a lot of fun.
families, and oh my god, I adore that show so much, and I wish I could go back and rewatch it again without knowing what happens. That I would be okay with rated R, but I agree 100% with what Spencer was saying, is that I don't agree with potty humor and immature sexual humor for Star Wars. I think it takes away from the original plan of what George had for Star Wars and the overall, I don't know, the legendary, iconic level of storytelling that it is if you dumb it down. And I'm not to say that you can't make jokes, because Family Guy does it, or they do it in SNL, or they do like little fun parodies. Like the Kylo Ren undercover boss thing is one of the most hilarious things ever. But yeah, I don't know. I couldn't do the Deadpool humor bits, tangents, cutaways in Star Wars. I couldn't do a whole movie of that. I could do like bits of it, or like a 2-second skit of it. But I don't think I could do that for a whole movie. And hey, prove me wrong, make it, and watch me love it. And that's probably what would happen. But I don't know. I can't see it. I'm a little like guarded when it comes to Star Wars, just because of how much it means to me and how much it's impacted my life, that I don't want to see it dumbed down, I guess.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I'm sort of agreeing with parts of what both or you were saying, but more staunchly for me, I'm not into an R-rated Star Wars movie. I think I want to be able to show my kids all of Star Wars, and like Andor, obviously, when they get a little older. But I think that's the sort of threshold for me where it's like, we've never had R-rated Star Wars. Does it move the needle? Will it bring people into Star Wars? But in what way? Will they come in and check in for the R-rated and leave once again when we go back to fantastical wizards and creatures? What's the move there? So I am more of a purist when it comes to that stuff because you can get your R-rated space or action stuff anywhere else. It's all over
I
the
mean,
place.
look at Rebel Moon. Wasn't that a Star Wars
Exactly.
story originally?
I was about to say Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon, but and Ryan Reynolds, for some reason, I'm just kind of over his shtick right now, and I don't know why that is. Maybe he's just too much everywhere, and it seems a little one-trick pony. It is a little Ace Ventura-ish, and I agree with all your points, Spencer, about that style of humor and his delivery, his cadence, and I don't even know what he would bring from if he's not in it, what is he going to produce it? Like, I know he's quite the entrepreneur and billionaire at this point with all of his ventures.
Yeah.
But I just don't know. It seems like one of those things where it's like, what if I just made a Star Wars movie? It doesn't feel like something that he is passionate about necessarily. So the whole thing just turns me off, and not necessarily in a I don't like Ryan Reynolds way, because I love Deadpool.
He's
and
not
God
sitting there
knows a lot
saying
of
it's
things
my
he's in.
dream, like Sean Levy, who said this is the golden ticket.
It
This
just
is
seems
what I've
like
always wanted to do. Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like a fit for me. I don't know.
That's fair.
But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Sean Levy, maybe he develops some pull when hopefully his movie makes $1 billion, and who knows what happens thereafter. Maybe Ryan Reynolds is the first Jedi in Dawn of the Jedi. No, I'm just kidding.
Stop. Oh my God.
That would end everything. That would be Henry Winkler jumping right over the shark, maybe. But all right, let's get into some fun with Spencer to close out the show and our discussion about the Virtual Cantina, Rebel Scum Con, and all that stuff. Let's get into it.
Obi-Wan once thought as you do.
Spencer, let's get after it in terms of what you have going on with not only the Virtual Cantina Network, the events you have coming up, but it all starts somewhere. It all starts with, seeing a movie and falling in love with the Star Wars in some way. And we all have our stories, so maybe you could paint a picture for our audience and how you got into Star Wars. What was the first memory you have of it, and how did it become what it is now for you?
So for me, I was born in 76, so I couldn't go to the theater as 77. At least I don't remember that at age 1. It was the Kenner toys. That was my initial introduction to Star Wars. I had the vinyl cape, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the lightsaber Luke, that the lightsaber kept on falling out of his hand, with that little hook on its side there. But my first experience in the theater was actually for Empire. And I was 4 years old, and I actually do remember this because it was quite traumatic for me. Opening scene in Hoth, Chewbacca's there welding the Falcon. I start crying my eyes out because I thought Chewie was going to burn himself or electrocute himself with his hair with the welder.
Oh,
no.
But that speaks as a person that you would care like that. That's sweet.
My dad is like, "You're embarrassing me," and took me out of the theater. So that was my first experience to Star Wars in the theaters. Needless to say, Empire Strikes Back is not only my favorite movie of all time, but it's my favorite Star Wars movie ever.
Me too, man.
So that was my first experience. Always been a fan my entire life, and it was, it's funny because we talk about sometimes that when we grew up, we had groups of friends that we might have liked Star Wars, but we really didn't talk about it like we talk about it right now.
Right.
It was like the high school I went to, is very much a sporty type of thing.
I was going to say, don't mention it.
Yeah. I was a band and theater geek myself. So, we liked it, but we really didn't, outwardly go and be like, whatever. I mean, I remember in college, I went to the 24-hour showing of Phantom Menace, and the special editions when those first came out. So yeah. I have a history of now because of that. I'll go to the first showing every time because I've been doing that since special edition. And then, I always was a fan. I love Star Wars. It was always part of my life. And then a mentor of mine went to London 2016. Yeah. And I actually watched the panels on YouTube. I sat in my cubicle at work, minimized YouTube when my boss would come over, and they're like, Orlando 2017, and I'm like, I'm going, like, without question. Like like I said, I watched all the panels. I was loving it. I was, excited like you were that, I'm gonna get Carrie. I'm gonna meet Carrie Fisher. And unfortunately, her and Kenny passed in that year between the two celebrations, and just become, honestly, my life. It literally has become one of the best things to ever happen to me, because there's also one thing that I try to tout with Virtual Cantina in itself is when you're in a supportive environment, you find your truest self. You find out where you belong. And as somebody who never actually knew where he belonged, what tribe he belonged to, always part of, obviously, my extended family and all that, but never felt like where my place in society was really, and I actually felt like I found myself in Star Wars.
That is so cool, man.
I mean, I feel the same way. It's like I'm hearing myself talk. Absolutely.
And my last couple of jobs that I've had, including this one I've gotten them because of the work I've done with the VCN.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Because I work in event planning, marketing, and sales. And I just relay what I've done to what I do in my 9-to-5 job, the job that pays the bills. Unlike the hobby that takes up more time than I would like to give it, but it just consumes my life.
Sure.
It was coming back to Star Wars and finding this community was, like I said, one of the things I could say at the end of the day I'm the most proud of, because I got to meet my heroes. I got to meet people all around the world. I got to travel the world and go to Japan, which, I've been to the Orient before, but never went to Tokyo, Japan. And honestly, unless we were going for celebration, I probably would never have gone.
We're the same way. Yeah.
I would have gone to London because I grew up in England and I had not been back since 8th grade. So I got to go back and relive my childhood and have fun with Star Wars all at the same time. So Star Wars is honestly, it's the best thing that's ever happened in my life, literally. And I'm very fortunate to have been able to meet people like you guys and, hang out with you and hang out with, the Fan the Tracks guys, like Mark Newbold and James over at Jedi News, and just have friends around the world that, I can message them at any particular time, or if I'm in a city or a different country, or that there's a Star Wars or a member of VCN everywhere that I can be like, let's just go out and have a beer, or let's just hang out, have a meal, whatever, talk Star Wars. Like,
right.
I want to hear your story of Star Wars. What do you love? What do you love about Celebration? I mean, that's really, what keeps me going at this point, because it's not necessarily just the autograph hall, which I love the autograph hall. I spend most of my time, if I'm not in panels, at autograph hall. But it's hearing and seeing people loving Star Wars and not listening to the garbage that the fandom menace, as we call them, not listening to them, but allowing people to have the pure joy of Star Wars. And that's what really Celebration is all about.
That is well put, and I really like your story, and I could tell how genuine it is and how long it's been a part of your life. I did not know you grew up in London. I thought you were a Long Island guy.
I was in Long Island up until 4th grade. My father got transferred over to England. I went to an American school for 5 years, 4 or 5 years, roughly around there. I was over there during the Gulf War, and then I came back to Long Island for high school. All right. And then my senior year, I actually transferred to a Connecticut boarding school.
Oh.
So I spent 2 years in Washington, Connecticut at the Gunnery.
Wow. Yes, that's pretty wild. Like, you and I have sort of crossed paths geographically, but we finally met because of Star Wars, Spencer. So
exactly, literally, and it's amazing the connections and the people that you never thought that you would ever have been friends with or anything in nature. But the fact is, you all have this love for this little indie film that came out in 1977.
Yes.
But the thing is that what's great about Star Wars in today's day and age is that there's an entry point for everybody.
Yeah.
Our generation, the prequels. the love that Ahmed got in 2019 in Chicago reinvigorated my love for the prequels. And I went back with new eyes. I said, something? If I had kids, this would be their entry point. The sequel trilogy are the prequel kids' entry point. Next year, that's going to be somebody's entry point. Mando Grogu is going to be someone's entry point. There's an entry point for every generation, every age bracket, or anything of that nature, and we all come back to our love, and that is Star Wars as a whole. There's elements that we all might not like more than the other, and I can flat out say that my least favorite Star Wars is Rise of Skywalker, but that's just me. But I doesn't mean I don't like the movie. I have the Blu-ray. I'll watch it on occasion if I feel like I want to actually watch.
You got to complete the set anyway.
Something? That's my argument to all my friends that say they hate Last Jedi. I'm like, yeah, but you're gonna look at that hole right on your bookies. You're like,
they still own it.
I'm not gonna take that film out of its wrapper, but it's there. Right, you can't deny it. So
exactly.
It's Star Wars. It's not Disney Star Wars. It's not George Lucas Star Wars. It's Star Wars. Right. And we love it for what it is. And it's being the truest person we could be. We're right now, and I think this is true, we're in the renaissance of the geek. Everything that we loved as kids is popular again. The music.
Yeah, it's cool now. Yeah.
It's cool. So it's like kind of like, okay, so I went to a party with my wife, and some people came up to me and said, "Oh, you're the Star Wars guy." And I looked at her. I'm like, "When did I become cool?" Like,
it's so true though, because you're like, "Oh, my whole life I've been silent about this until now."
Yes, exactly. But now we can be anybody we want to be and be happy in Star Wars, and it's the greatest thing. I mean, we do these podcasts. You guys, us. The other podcasts out there, because we have that innate love, and that's one of the things that I try to encourage and have a positive, outlook and outplace for people to actually enjoy Star Wars in whatever capacity. George Lucas wrote these films, as you mentioned earlier, for kids. It was an answer to the Vietnam War for 12-year-olds, and he's flat out said that. If we're the age we are, and we're getting so nasty about a kid's property, maybe we need to get our egos in check to realize what Star Wars really is. And it's about love. You don't have to like anything. You don't want to like it. But don't yuck someone else's yum, because that might be someone else's jam. And that's completely fine too. Let's just have fun with Star Wars. And that's what the VCN is really all about.
There's also stuff to like about every single movie, and there's things that I don't like, but I don't even talk about them. I don't focus on them. I focus on you know what? That movie, I loved this part and this thing, and I loved this creature, or this happened. I don't understand the need for people to immediately be like, "Oh, that sucks. I hate that." You're like, okay, you could just respond with something you love and keep the conversation going. We don't have to immediately record like this sucks.
Right.
But I mean, with Rise of Skywalker, you could sum it up with the word somehow. I mean, that's the one thing I could say that I was like, okay, cool. That's the one line that I was like, okay, that's jumping the shark or not having.
I think C-3PO shines in that movie, and I will stand by that is his movie.
John and Andy says that's his favorite. Out of all the movies he's done, he said that's his favorite movie.
He gets the most screen time. He's like the important character.
He's funny again. He's on. He's actually on screen. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like the Rise of Skywalker. And here you and I are talking, and everything's okay.
You guys are fine. It's your friends.
Right. It's completely cool.
Exactly.
I personally, I read Colin Trevorrow's Treatment, and I love Duel of Fates, and I thought that would have been an incredible movie, but they couldn't do it. All right, whatever. It's Rise of Skywalker. I mean, my personal opinion is they should have definitely housed that and made it part 1 and part 2. It probably would have made more sense, but they wanted to do a trilogy because they painted themselves into a corner.
Damn word. Yeah.
It is what it is, but at the same time, we have Star Wars, and we talked about the dark times of the 16 years we had nothing but the Zahn books and the EU, and now we don't have to worry about Star Wars ever again. I mean, that's pretty damn awesome.
And you hit on something perfect, Spencer, in terms of your community, the Virtual Cantina Network, the growing amounts of people that are finding it, maybe finding their own, people through that. Our community with TRB. I mean, these are people who developed friendships that have now transcended the podcast, and they're traveling together, they're staying together, they're helping each other out when they need help. It has become a
Doing book
real
clubs,
thing,
yeah.
and it's all rooted in actual connection with fans, and like not the blank screen of avatars and taking people's words out of context. It's actual engagement with people. And when we go to events like Celebration, or like the party you had in Japan, and you meet people for the first time, but you feel like they know how I love this stuff, I don't need to explain it to them. That's all real stuff. And I encourage people, if you've never gone to a Celebration, go to one. It will change how you feel about fandom, especially if you feel sort of off put by how social media handles it, how YouTube handles it, that sort of thing. And stuff that you're building, stuff that we're building, stuff that other podcasts are building in terms of real communities. And when they come together like this Megatron of fans, it is a tangibly incredible thing to see, because everybody's on the same page, and it all is the central universal love of that.
Right.
And it's a really special thing. So I know you do have some stuff coming up. So what can you tell us about what's on the horizon? What would you like to put out there and promote for our audience so they can get a taste of what's happening with Virtual Cantina Network and some of the other events that you're involved with?
So our most immediate event we're doing a Boonta Eve special edition in conjunction with Rebel Scum Con. Boonta Eve, for those who don't know, is our traditional night before Celebration event. And we do a special event, special edition versions when we go to other locations, or if we're going to do an event outside of Celebration, we take the whole special edition, from the prequels and before then,
Right.
from that area. So Rebel Scum Con actually is bringing us in. It's the first con to actually legitimately hire us to run an after party for them. And I don't like to use that. A lot of people use that word after party. I call it an after event, because the fact is that it's more than just a party. It's part con, part karaoke location, part sabak gaming. Hyperspace Props are coming back. They're going to be with us in Texas as well.
Amazing.
And it adds another element. We have 13 guests in Texas that are not part of con, but they are all actors and crew members that can supplement what you're getting at Rebel Scum Con. Like I can talk right now is that our headliner is Diana Lee Inosanto. So right there alone, you can get Morgan Elsbeth and a whole bunch of stuff, which will go great with, if you're doing Mandalorian, they got Kay Sackhoff and Emily Swallow over at Rebel Scum Con. So it's another cast piece. We're bringing in Anna Graves. They have Sam Witwer and Katie Sackhoff right there alone.
Wow.
So get a dual shot of the two of them.
Yes.
Also, we're bringing in Taylor Gray. Got Sam Witwer
we
right
love
there.
Taylor. Taylor's been on the show. He's so wonderful.
So get that Sith holocron signed by Sam in the afternoon and come to our event and get Taylor to sign it. And we have a whole slew of other actors. We got OT. We have David Akram and John Morton joining us.
Yes.
Christopher Sean from Resistance. He's going to be there along with his live action father Nelson Lee, who played Senator Ziono in Ahsoka.
Nice.
Right.
So you have Kaz and his father right there, which we actually ran with them in California last summer during our trip, which was the first time they actually ever met, which was incredible.
Oh, that's awesome.
So for them to talk about, Nelson is actually, I think, a little bit younger than Christopher. So they would have that story about wait, I'm actually the father.
That's so funny.
So, we're very excited about this event, and it's a lot of fun. And that's what we try to do. We try to be that little bit extra for an event as a hype magnet, if you will, for that con or for Celebration or anything of that nature. And we try to do that. So very excited about that. Our event is on August the 8th. Tickets are still on sale for the event. VIP sold out in a day. For the event. So very excited.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. I love it that we've in Japan. We sold out in 4 minutes on January 1st. So when we get a sellout, but that's celebration. I have to put in my mind sometimes that, take celebration as a whole. You have an isolated 150,000 people looking for something to do. So we're going to sell out because people are looking for events. People are looking to go to the bash. People are looking
Okay,
to go
but you have an amazing event. Let's not sell it short. Let's not say, oh, they're just looking for no, like you have a great event with a great reputation. So people want to be there.
I appreciate that. But,
of course.
I'm from, like I said, from 2017. My first major event, besides the fact that I actually ran an event at 2017 for my first celebration, which is crazy. Was the 501st Bash where they had Weird Al.
Oh, that was bananas. Yeah.
That was my first major party for Star Wars, literally. And then obviously the Canto Bite that we had in Chicago was insane. To me, those are pedestal type events, and I'll always give props. And we were all at the Cantina 2 at the O2 in London. That was an incredible event in itself. So I'm giving props to everybody around there, and I just want to be in the conversation. That's all I care about. I don't care about topping them. I don't want to be better. I just want to be like, we're at the point right now that we're going into our 5th celebration of running something, and we're known as the official kickoff party of celebration. And then we like to bring that party anywhere we go, wherever we are, whether it's meet up at Fan Expo Dallas next week, which we have a meetup there, or in Boston, which is the same weekend as Rebel Scum Con. We're just trying to get the community, because the thing is that if you have a positive community and you have somebody who might be, a little bit shy, and they come to one of our events, and then they go to celebration next day and they run into somebody they met at the party. Oh, right. I met you last night. We played Sabak. Oh my God, did you get that autograph last night? Oh my God, yeah. How many shots did we do at the bar? It's those conversations that people feel like I know somebody. And that's what we try to do. We try to be like, it's a family reunion, but also, the first time you come in and realize we're coming at you with open arms and say, hey, whatever you like about Star Wars, come in. We're like you. And we were all there. And once they get the bug of celebration, they're going to come back year after year, no matter where they are in the world, just because they love the community. They love the Star Wars community. And if the Virtual Cantina is an element of it, that's all that I'm happy about, Sure. And that's what we try to do. So, Rebel Scum Con, are you saying?
You're smart, because by you doing the kickoff, you're getting all of us before our feet hurt or back hurt and all that stuff. You're getting us fresh, Spencer.
You're getting us
so
fresh
before
that
the
night.
chaos, which is such a smart idea.
The thing is that, like I said, I don't want to be in, run up against another one of the big events,
Oh, I know. I'm playing.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think we found our niche, and we try to make it get hyped, and that's what I want to do is get hyped. I kind of consider myself in some capacities the biggest fan of celebration, because I love celebration, and that I want people to get so excited about it in any capacity, because celebration is what you make of it, and it can be as great or as horrible as you want it to be. But the fact is, there's so much that you can go there that honestly, even when things are not as great as you think it is, you had the most amazing time and you made friends for life. And that's the most important thing. We're all adults in this room right here, and we can say outside the community, it's tough to make friends as an adult. Yes. It really is. If you find common ground or anything of that nature, in our 20s, it's easier. 30s, it starts to get a little, and then you start pushing that a little bit, and you're like, might have there are kids' parents, they will go for dinner one night.
I made my first parent friend last week. It's been 9 weeks of dance classes. I finally made a friend. It's
a lot of
9
pressure.
weeks. Yeah.
But the fact is that with Star Wars, we all have that love. So,
guess what? Right. And you know why? I said I liked Star Wars, and the guy goes, "You like Star Wars?" I was like, "Yeah." Talked about Star Wars for the next 30 minutes.
I actually, it's funny because
right.
Very cool.
I go into a room of people, and I might not have anything to talk with them because I personally, in my real life, I hate small talk. And so it's hard for me to actually get a conversation going because I'm like, it's just too much work. But someone says Star Wars, I'm like, and then I feel like I could talk to you about anything because we found common ground at that point.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like you said earlier, you're not trying to force anything. You're just going with what you love and what works for you. And that in my experience, that usually leads to the most true version of finding yourself, like you talked about. So that's amazing. And so the dates, so your event is August 8th and Rebel Scum Con, what's the range of dates
The
overall?
8th, so they're the 8th through the 10th. And tickets are still on sale right now. They announced that they are doing the Sack Off show as well.
Right.
Very
Live
cool.
podcast,
Actually, what they're doing is that doors for the Sack Off show are on Friday at 6:30. They're running from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. We start at 8 o'clock. They made that purposely to have the Sack Off show lead right into Boonta Eve.
Fantastic.
So we're non-competition with Katie, which is
Excellent.
great.
Yes.
So great lineup for them. I mean, John and I were talking about the fact that they're bringing in Lauren Peterson, which is legend, especially if you watch Light and Magic 2.
Oh my God.
He's all over it.
Yes.
So that's gonna be incredible. They're bringing also Howie Weedon, who was the Wampa in special editions. He was also, if you're a Ghostbusters fan, he was the demon Vigo the Carpathian in Ghostbusters 2.
Wait, he played Vigo?
So he's Vigo as Ray Stan. So he's in the.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I love Ghostbusters too. I'm not afraid to admit it.
I like that movie too.
Yeah. No, that was a fantastic one. So, they have some incredible ILM people, incredible actors.
Yeah.
They're bringing Aiden Barton, who was Baby Luke and Leia in Sith.
Oh wow.
He's only done 3 cons. He did our event in California last year. He did one in New Hampshire, and this is his first real big con. But they're also bringing in Ross Beedman in, so they can have the 2 kids.
The kid that says Master Skywalker.
Yeah. So this kid's like, it's like the Nirvana baby with that kid then,
right? So So they have a great lineup of of a little bit of everything, and they're some really, really great guys who absolutely love Star Wars. And one of their promoters was at our event in Texas, and I'm sorry, in Japan, and was smiling the entire time because he knew what I had planned for his show. And I'm very excited to go in there, and we're hoping to replicate that. We put up on our new website, which is virtualcantinanetwork.com. Hire us. If you're looking to start an event, or you need, event management personnel, or help finding talent, or anything marketing wise, reach out to us. We would love to do this more often. I think that it's just community building, and plus also it all leads back to celebration. And that's what we always try to do, is that, and also in between the years of celebration and the lull years, we try to do a family vacation. During COVID, when the cons started ending, like 80 of us went down to Florida because that was the first parks to open up, and just did a weekend go around the parks. And we literally took up every reservation for 3 hours at Oga's. So 80 of us in Oga's at the same time, which was absolutely amazing. And then the last family vacation we did last year, we started off at Scum and Villainy, and we had 25 actors meet up with us at Scum and Villainy and did an autograph signing. We then went to Anaheim and had another 15 meet us up with us at a bar outside of Anaheim. Then Disney, and then we took a bus up to San Francisco and ended it with we called the family portrait outside of the Yoda fountain.
Fantastic.
Oh, nice. That's fun.
So we're already playing next year's family vacation, which will be in Florida. So we're playing that right now, which is great for 26. And also, obviously whatever other events are coming up. But I did do a little bit of a teaser that I filmed while I was online for an autograph before they made the major announcement for where Celebration was, which I counted down to number 5, which is going to be Boonta Eve Episode 5, The VCN Strikes Back. We'll be back on March 31st, 2027 in Los Angeles, California. The 2 things I can say right now about that: 1, We will emanate from the Sunset Strip.
Okay.
And 2,
Wow.
it's historic. And that's all I could say. You will find out in a year from now where we're going to be. I signed the contract. The deposit is down. That happened within 2 weeks of us getting back from Japan.
I was
We
going to
had
say,
that-
people are running right now.
Oh my God. Like literally at our final dinner, we were like, okay, we know we're in Los Angeles and we're sitting there, we're already mulling ideas. And we're like, what if we try the Strip? And then with a week, we started with going back, we started having conversation. Within 2 weeks, I signed the contract.
Nice. That's
All right.
awesome.
So we
Okay.
will be back. And I said to let you know that this location has a 500 capacity.
That's a
So-
big party.
It's going to be a big party, 20 minutes away from the con. And then, we're going to have 4 days of the 50th anniversary of Star Wars. So it's going to be big. And we knew that with the 50th anniversary, we got to go big. So we plan to go big. And I hope that everybody out there watching this tries to get a ticket. It's going to sell. And I know that, like I said before, when we're around Celebration, people are looking for things to do. And we just happen to be one of those things that's on your radar. And I just want to put this out for pure selfish reasons. I am so excited that you guys were just hanging out outside, and I came outside to see you guys in Japan. And you
I'm
guys
so
came in and had
excited
such a
too.
great time.
Absolutely. That was,
That was.
honestly, that night was one of my highlights of the whole weekend.
So
it was
much
just
fun.
the sabak table, just like us screaming at each other, me winning the game and making everybody look bad. It's just a highlight.
No, it's fantastic. I love when people have those opportunities to go and do things. And I mean, I remember it saying, "So why don't you guys go play sabak?" Wait, you have sabak here? I'm like,
That's what I said.
Right.
What?
Right.
and you're
That was a
John,
really-
John.
I love that I said that in the story. I was just like, John, get out. And he's like, what?
That was
No,
that was a really cool moment, because we were like, all right, we're gonna find a bar to hang out in, and we walked by, and then you saw us, and we got to come in and hang out, and then all of a sudden I see Newbold and all these people I've known for a long time, and it just it felt like you're walking into like Cheers or something. It's like just a really good feeling to see people you're familiar with, people you don't know as well. I mean, I didn't know you as well. We had interacted online. We met in London briefly. Now, developing a friendship off of just some beers and good talk about Star Wars, waiting in line to get into the convention. It's all
Right.
there. And I think our audience is going to be just well aware at this point that the Virtual Cantina is a good time. So hopefully the TRB crowd snatches us some tickets for LA. But I also wish you luck with everything with Rebel Scum Con. We'll talk regularly, but for the sake of the podcast, I wish you luck for Rebel Scum Con, Boonta
Thank you.
Eve on August 8th. And I want to really just thank you so much for hopping in the base with us finally, Spencer. It's a good time. Hour and a half flew by, but that's what happens
Welcome back anytime.
when you're having
man.
fun. Yeah.
Well, thank you very
Yeah.
much. I mean, I'm very excited about when the opportunity came to be on your show. I know we talked about it in Japan, and we found the time to make it work with all of our busy schedules. And then we were inundated in that thing that was called Andor, which
Yes.
it consumed the VCN as well. We did watch-alongs.
I watched some of your watch-alongs. They were good.
Yeah, we try to look at our watch-alongs as almost like the Star Wars version of Mystery Science Theater 3000, where we're just watching it, but we're commenting on everything else but Andor or the thing we're watching. But then we'll throw in the snarky remote. Oh, did you see that? Like, then obviously watching oh yeah, well I watched Screen Crush earlier today, and they said this Easter egg and that, and try to throw tidbits in there. Just having fun, watching on property. And, we've been very fortunate to have a lot of the actors come on and watch with us. We actually had one of my favorite ones is we had right after episode 7 of season 3 of Mandalorian, we actually had Tate Fletcher on for his episode.
Oh, that's
nice.
awesome.
When we had him scheduled before we knew what the episode was, he told me, he's like, I want to be episode 7. So I'm like, okay, whatever. That's fine. You're in the schedule. And then I was in that room watching with everybody when, R.I.P. Paz Vizsla And I'm texting him. I'm like, dude. And he just wrote LMAO. And then Emily ran to her on the floor, and she's like, Tate told me he's going to be on your show. Can I come and give him his flowers because of what he's done in that episode? I'm like, yeah. She's like, just don't tell Tate. So she actually dialed in to thank him for what he did in the Mandoverse for that episode. And it's nice to know. And one thing I love about meeting Star Wars actors in particular is that when we grew up, we had the holy trinity of Harrison, Mark, and Carrie, and they were unattainable. Like we were never going to see them until we started going to Celebration. We were never going to meet them unless we saw them on the street, to get street graph or
airport.
Yeah, airport or anything of that nature. And anybody that we talk to, whether how little they were involved in Star Wars to all the way up to making the movies, it makes us feel like we're that one more step away from being in Star Wars, almost like that 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Like we feel like we're more involved in Star Wars because we have this ability to meet the actors and have to talk to them about their love of it. I mean, how many of those actors that we saw, not just those who came to my event in Japan, but there were so many actors who flew themselves to Japan just because they were a Star Wars fan and wanted to walk the fleet.
That's so cool.
Absolutely, man.
So,
yeah.
I mean, Katie O'Brien moved her honeymoon to Japan, and she left from our event on her honeymoon. Like
Good
she's like,
her.
I can come over and go do something for Celebration, and then my wife and I can go travel Japan for the rest of the month. I mean, Star Wars is for everybody. It really is, and people will find a way to make things happen. And I always tell people, if you want to go to Celebration, there is a way to go to Celebration. But the first thing I'll tell you is that your tickets are going to be the cheapest thing there the entire weekend.
Right, that's for
it's
sure.
totally true.
But the thing is, if you want to go to Celebration, there's a way to go to Celebration. And even if you don't go to Celebration and you can't get a ticket, there's going to be so many events outside of Celebration, like our event, the Bash, and whatever other shenanigans that go around there. You can be part of Celebration even if you don't go to con. And that's a great thing about our community is we're welcoming of everybody around it.
Yeah, we did an event in 22 in Anaheim at a brewery, and we did a live podcast. We filled the whole back lot. It was an incredible event outside of Anaheim, and people showed up for it. You're absolutely right. You can still go to the location, Woodstock style, no ticket to the event, and have the time of your life as well. But try to get tickets for Celebration because it's the 50th especially is going to be hopefully something really special. But this was special. Spencer, thank you again for taking the time. Did you have anywhere on social media for people to reach you or anything like that in terms of just interacting or any other plugs you want to toss out there before we close the base for the night?
Yeah, sure. So obviously, if you're going to be looking for us on Facebook, the world's largest celebration Facebook page, look for the Star Wars Celebration Los Angeles 2027 Facebook page, but look for the one with the most amount of members. That's ours. There's a lot of great ones out there. We're more of a community that tries to keep the spirit of celebration going 24/7. You can find me there all the time. You can find us on youtube.com @ Virtual Cantina Network, or our newly dubbed virtualcantinanetwork.com, where you can hear about everything that we're doing, all the events and pictures of past events and information about the group in general. So hope to see you over there, and hope to have you a member of our family.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you very much for that. Be sure to follow them on all those spots. And thank you all for listening. Lacey, where can people hit you up to talk about all this good stuff?
People can find me on social media at Lacey Gillerin.
And for me, Johnny Hoey on Blue Sky, once in a while on X, and hopefully in theaters less than a year from now, watching The Mandalorian and Grogu. But thank you all so much for listening, watching, being a part of TRB. You know where to subscribe. You know where to follow. You know how to find us on Patreon as well and get in the base at patreon.com/TRB podcast. But that's it from us. Spencer, thank you again. Look forward to hanging out again soon because we will talk soon. And from us here at the Resistance Broadcast, until next time, we'll see you around, kids.